you're more important than your kids. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I say that it's very provocative, but I think it's important to get people's attention with that. You are more important than your kids.
Welcome to the Sparkle Project. I'm Emily, a divorced mom of two on my own journey to shine a little brighter. This podcast is here to help you protect your sparkle amidst the chaos and impossible expectations of modern motherhood. If you're a mom ready to choose yourself and shine, you are in the right place. Let's dive in. Hey, welcome back to the Sparkle Project. As we all know, human beings are very complex, and today we are going to be unpacking some of those complexities as humans who are also mothers and raising children. This episode will help you understand yourself better and find deeper connection with yourself through that understanding. Joining me today is Jessica Tomich Sorci, a level 3 certified internal family systems therapist. That's IFS. We're going to be talking all about that today. She's the creator of Mom Parts, which is an application of IFS that we'll be getting into in this conversation, and the author of a newly released book titled When Good Moms Feel Bad, an empowering guide for transforming guilt, anxiety, and anger into compassion, confidence, and connectedness. That title alone gets me so excited. I am so excited to talk to you about all of this today. And before we get into it, I want to say congratulations because your book released in February, and that is incredible. It is such a beautiful book. You're doing such important work. And I'm so excited that your voice is out there in that new way. So congratulations and welcome.
Thank you, Emily. I appreciate that. I love the celebration.
Yes. Well, it's a huge accomplishment, totally worth celebrating. Would you go ahead and introduce yourself to us and just kind of briefly tell us a little bit more about the work you do? Obviously, we're going to get deep into it, but give us the overview.
Yeah, I'm a therapist. I've been a therapist for 16 or 17 years now. And what motivated me to get into being a therapist was that I had a really hard time growing up. My mom really struggled. And I could say in shorthand, she was a bad mom. And I mean, in all the kind of most obvious sort of quote unquote bad ways. And so as a kid, I really struggled. And as a teen, and I got into therapy, and I really spent decades trying to just recover from that and understand what happened. And, I loved her too. So it was so complicated. I became a therapist with the sort of intention to help kids like me, I think was probably my wounded healer orientation. But what happened was I became a mom. And when I became a mom, I realized this is very hard. And I was humbled. And I didn't become my mom at all, which was my fear. But I started to understand what moms are up against. And I started taking interest in that. And at some point, it clicked for me that, there really aren't bad moms. There are moms who've got parts that do things that are not good. They're destructive or create lots of pain and perpetuate trauma, but that there are parts of us, I guess that all parts of us are really trying to help. I started to get that understanding and really wanting to help mothers feel better with the recognition that that's the best thing you can do for kids. If my mom had healed and felt better, she would have been such a different mom, and I would have had such a different experience. So my focus kind of shifted from the kids to the moms and really wanting to help them.
That is such a powerful story. Just understanding that kind of generational healing that can happen, and how if we look at things, obviously we're living our individual lives and there's individual impact of the dynamics both from our own parents and then forward onto our children. But if you're able to kind of zoom out a little bit and see generationally and the healing that does or doesn't happen and how change can happen in that way on a more long-term scale, it's really powerful in understanding our own, I guess, role in what we can do, and how it's not our job to fix everything, but also there is so much power in being able to heal certain parts of ourselves and make a difference, even a small one, for the next generation.
Yes, that's my favorite topic right now. Oh my gosh, I'm doing a big deep dive into my own maternal line, looking at, my mom's kind of bad momness. And her mom was a great mom, my grandmother, who I didn't know, and trying to understand what happened and what were we all up against. What have moms always been up against? What are some of the legacy burdens that we get handed by virtue of living in a patriarchal culture and not having the resources and support that we just absolutely critically need when we're mothering? And how does that little package of pain get transmitted to the next generation? And that's so interesting to me and
I'm
hopeful.
I'm like so into just talking about that link between societal influence, societal support or lack of support, and how that does impact individuals in the home. And again, it's like the looking at the individuals that really matters, right? Like it as a therapist, right? It's like you're helping individuals. It is so, so important to look at ourselves and understand there could be better for ourselves as individuals. But then again, zooming out, looking at the societal context and understanding that we exist as individuals in a societal context that is so complex and so impactful, and a lot of times not necessarily impactful in a good way, right? There's this patriarchal system we're mothering within that is not built for us to be able to mother well in. I am so interested in hearing a little bit more about the title of your book because it is so powerful. That first part, When Good Moms Feel Bad, just reading that like hits me in my core a little bit. There's something in there. And I'm curious what that means to you, what you're speaking to with that.
Yeah, moms are by and large really about as good as people get. That's what I find in all the groups that I run and the trainings that I do, that something about motherhood opens our hearts and creates this intention to help, to support, to raise another being. And even if you don't consider yourself like the most maternal person, or that you didn't have that immediate maternal instinct, or maybe you flounder a lot, still there's something about motherhood again that just tunes our systems to in some way being more generous. And maybe that's the best way of putting it, more generous. So again, like what I've really come to is that by and large moms are really outrageously good. And then if you pile IFS on top of that, or if you pull the two together, IFS also asserts the idea that all parts have good intentions. So, the moms that show up for therapy, the moms that I've been seeing for years and years, show up because they feel like they're failing. They feel like they're not good moms, or that they should be better, or that, sometimes they actually just feel really unsupported and they're working on trying to get more support too. But most often there's like a lot of intense inner criticism going on. I'd say like
Yeah.
99.9% of the time, a big voice inside that says you're not good enough or you could be better. And I think bringing this idea in that even that voice is trying to help you. And what if we started flipping everything on its ear so that we're looking for the good intentions in even the parts of ourselves that we don't like, even our explosive anger, even our panic, even our self harm inclinations, that within each of those parts of us, there's a desire to protect or to feel better. And there's some sort of nugget of like a treasure of our soul and our essence that, with a little bit of support and guidance, we can start to honor and almost like call back home in a way that, our culture doesn't encourage or really teach us to do. We're very performative in this culture, and but really like our inner critics and our outer critics, and
Yeah.
we try to make things look good, and that's where the push is. So this is a really different kind of angle on motherhood.
Yeah. It's again, just everything you're saying is so powerful and I think gives so much like validation to the complexities and the trickiness of balancing those kind of, I almost want to say like scary feelings of like not being enough, not doing enough, failing our kids in some way, and also being a human, living in the reality of the fact that we are a product of our own upbringing
Yeah.
and culture and society and there's no perfect mom out there. And holding both of those things, there's a lot of like, I think almost like having to logic your way through what it means to be good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like something that is defined differently by culture than what it actually might mean to be good enough, right? Like,
Yeah, and I'm hearing inside what you're saying. Like, there's
yeah,
this assumption we make that we're supposed to know what we're doing out of the starting gates,
yeah,
and that we're supposed to not really have a learning curve. And the
yeah,
truth is, we are works in progress just like our kids are, and it was never meant to be any different than that. You're not failing at all for being a work in progress. That's where do we get this idea that we're supposed to be polished, you know? Actually, you are trucking along with your kid, figuring this stuff out on the fly. And why don't we give ourselves not only, credit for that, but permission too
yeah,
to encounter a lot of unknowns, to encounter our own unfinished business. I mean, this is a great time to do it. It's like, yeah, this idea that we weren't supposed to have any unfinished business, that we were supposed to really deliver beautiful mothering right from the get-go with no errors. I mean, where did this come from? Anyways,
yeah.
that this approach using IFS really helps us get interested in all of that kind of messy stuff and soften, bring some curiosity to it and find a way of understanding the reactivity and the protectiveness and seeing it as very welcome.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited to get into all of that with you. I want to back up a little bit and talk a little bit about IFS, internal family systems, and mom parts, your framework that you use in talking about the parts of us, right? So, first of all, can you give us just an overview of what IFS is for anybody who may be unfamiliar or less familiar with that methodology or concept?
Yeah. A lot of the times when I try to explain it, I like 14 minutes later, I'm like,
Right.
okay, are you still with me? But I'll say it's a little bit like that movie Inside Out, where you get to see inside everybody's brains. They've got like all these different parts of them that have different jobs and hold different feelings and sort of thing. And another way of talking about it is, that we've got different parts that feel different ways. One part that loves our kid more than anything and can't wait to hear how they did on the math test today, but another part that's like, oh my God, I wish I had 4 more hours to finish the project I'm working on. And I'm like kind of resentful that I got to go pick my kid up now and hear how they did on the math test. And those two parts feel so much like they don't go together. They're kind
Yeah.
of opposed. And yet they're both here at the same time inside of us. So IFS would call those parts and would give some kind of support for how to get to know those parts and relate to them respectfully. And maybe most importantly, what IFS brings is not just the concept of the parts, which I'm kind of holding in my hands here, but the idea that there's a you that they call self energy, like yourself behind the parts. And when the parts can relax and not feel like they've got to take the sort of wheel in your system, you get to sit in yourself. And yourself is this massive resource that is always here, cannot be taken away, cannot be harmed or destroyed. It's just your essence, and we all have it. And it's the types of qualities of like calmness, connectedness, curiosity, compassion, courage, creativity. So IFS is really about helping us know our parts, helping those relax so that we're restored to self. And you can really feel the difference in mothering from self or mothering from the part that wishes your kid didn't come home so early from school, right? Like one of them's got a lot of urgency and maybe this part that loves your kid and wants to know about the math test is like, can you shut up? That one that wants the 4 hours. There's like now there's this feeling of inside a
Yeah.
war that goes on. And that's what's here when you go pick your kid up from school is that war inside of you versus that spaciousness that comes when your parts relax and you're just like present
Yeah.
and open again, spacious.
Like what's coming forward for me is just like how confusing it can be when there are these different internal dialogues or like parts of us pulling in different directions. And that guilt and this idea of mom guilt I talk about a lot the like guilt that can come upon us from not living up to some expectation and then the shame we make of it. That's how I kind of define mom guilt. But how those conflicting pieces of us, if we're not acknowledging and accepting them for what they are, can contribute to so much of that guilt and shame, because it's like we're fighting against ourselves, and that's confusing. It's hard to know who you are when internally you're at odds and there isn't a level of understanding and acceptance. So that is just really present in what you just explained and makes a whole lot of sense. And I think just hearing that, there's almost a sense of relief and knowing that, like, yes, there are lots of pieces of us, and just because you have one piece that feels this way doesn't mean you're a bad mom, doesn't mean you hate your kids. It doesn't mean any of that stuff. Like, it's normal to have all these different parts, right? Like, that's being
totally
a human.
Workable. That's
Totally
right.
workable. Yeah.
Totally workable and no problem at all. And I do so appreciate what you said. It's like if you are blended with all of that, it's all those parts are just alive and kind of on you and flooding you. You're just experiencing whatever those parts are saying and feeling and believing. And you're just kind of like subject to them.
Yeah.
But getting that little bit of prefrontal cortex information, left brain kind of scaffolding that helps you start to notice and name the parts, which is what we call an unblending technique. It gets it off of you. Now there's a lot more hope. You're like, okay, it makes sense. I got some direction here. There's something I can do, even with, you know, those parts that we really feel terrible about or we're scared of inside of ourselves. Having that direction, having a little bit of a map and some permission to go there and to like name the parts is so organizing. And maybe most of all, this is like my feminist part, it's very empowering.
Yeah.
It's so empowering. It's like we do not need to subject ourselves to these kind of external critical beliefs about what moms are supposed to do and look like and who we're supposed to be and what the definition of good enough is. We get to determine all of that from inside, and we can really trust ourselves if we start to take the time to notice what's actually happening. We can absolutely be our own reliable, loving gauge for good mothering.
Wow. As you're saying all of that, it's the realization that, like, yeah, like society only accepts some of those parts. And so no wonder we feel shitty about ourselves when we're feeling all of the different parts, because some of those aren't allowed by some external standard. And how empowering to see it for what it really is and acknowledge, like, no, we all have different parts. We all are navigating lots of different feelings at the same time. And there's nothing wrong with us for that. Just because society says that's not acceptable doesn't mean it's not normal, doesn't mean that not every other human out there is feeling these different parts. I want to get into your framework, your model of mom parts.
Yeah.
Based on this concept of IFS, you've created mom parts, and it's a way of explaining. Well, you tell us, what do mom parts explain? Get into it for us.
Well, it makes me want to open up my deck of mom parts cards, because I think that is a fun way. And I don't know if we'll be sharing visuals with your audience. Okay.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, episode is also on YouTube if you want to check out the visual component of this.
Awesome. So I have 29 mom parts cards that have the different types of parts that I think are really common in moms. And I'm paging through like responsible, resentful, regret, rage. These are just the R's. Perfectionist. And it goes on. There's 29 of those. And I think it's really been so kind of powerful and supportive for moms to have parts named, even though in IFS, we're pretty careful about naming other people's parts. You generally, if you're working with a client, you want them to get to name and define their own parts. But this mom parts method is like, no, we're going to lay out these 29, and then you get to pick based on like a meditation or a scenario that's happening in your life, which parts are up for you right now, and spread them out. And then we move through 3 other types of cards that help even further kind of tell the story of your parts and do that unblending. These grief and shame cards are what I call inescapable vulnerabilities of motherhood. And it's my belief that it's these 2 that are underneath all of the protectors and kind of causing the need to protect. So if we can find it and name it, and what I find is moms can do that really quickly, it's helpful. It kind of explains the big reactions. It explains the fear and the feelings and the need to protect. Then I have these truth cards, and I'm actually doing this out of order. Truths come before grief and shame, but I've got 14 truths that are kind of prompts for, it's like putting consent into the story. Because I think, like you were saying, patriarchy tells us what is and isn't okay in motherhood. So you really can't speak to things like, my kid really triggers my feelings of I'm not good enough or I'm not getting my own needs met. You can't say that and be a good mom. I mean, this is not about you, mom. You're supposed to be here for your kids. So who cares about your needs? That's kind of the patriarchal
Yeah.
angle. But these truth cards are designed to help kind of mine the truth and reclaim it for yourself. It's a reclaiming of the truth on your terms. And as moms lay out the truths and kind of touch into, is it grief or shame that my parts are feeling? We then get to go to the remedy cards, which are self energy, all these C words, connectedness, courage, choice, curiosity, compassion. What is it your parts are needing most right now in lieu of what they're holding? And then there's some practices for sending your system more of that particular quality, and then having an opportunity to send that energy backward in time to your mom and your grandma or anybody who didn't ever get a chance like this to peel the patriarchy off of their parts and like flood their system with care and love and time and attention. I mean, we have so much privilege in this era, many of us, me, I do, to take this kind of time and be focused in this way. And one of the problems of having that time and being able to focus in the way that we do is that we become more perfectionistic. We look at everybody else on social media and we inundate ourselves with information from Google, and we think more and more about how to do everything just right. What I'm suggesting is let's start taking that time to really become curious about our own system and how we can love ourselves like we've never been loved, mother ourselves in exactly the way we know how to mother. Sometimes our mothering isn't exactly what our kids need, and that's okay. And we can attune our mothering to ourselves in such exquisite ways, though. And I think that that's a big point of motherhood that gets missed, is your mothering is not just here for your kids, it's here for you too.
Wow. I'm like every component of that. I literally have like chills on my face and arms because what a powerful just way of looking at ourselves and understanding ourselves, choosing to understand ourselves. I think there's such an important piece there of acceptance and of self-acceptance that when we are set against these patriarchal systems, these standards of what it means to be a good girl, a good woman, a good mom, and we're not living up to those standards because we can't, it's impossible. They're fake, stupid standards, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't leave much room for the acceptance. And as you're explaining that, I mean, how long did you explain that? 5 minutes? You covered so much in there of like, there's these pieces that we all bring to the table. For some moms, the rage is going to be a much bigger piece of the puzzle than others, right? Like we all have different lives, lived experiences, personalities, all these things. But so many things come up in motherhood for all of us. I can just imagine walking into a session and having you lay those cards out and seeing like, wait, I'm coming in with something that feels like such a personal me problem. And you have this deck of cards that has it laid out there for me to choose what the problem is. And it's there because these feelings, these complex, horrendous, scary feelings that we don't want anything to do with because it feels like an attack on everything we're supposed to be as a good mom. And then to walk in and see those cards and be like, oh, wait, this is just like part of me as a mom. And maybe it's really loud right now. And maybe I don't want it to be so loud, but like she identified it not even thinking about me. It's just one of the things. How like validating and
Normalizing.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Ugh, it's just incredible.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you're getting it. It's awesome to have people get it.
Yeah. I hope for anyone listening to this too, again, if you're listening, she was showing us the cards as we were going through it. I think seeing that visual too, it's really helpful. So I encourage you, if you want to anchor in a little bit more, to again go check it out on YouTube, because I think just seeing that is so impactful, so powerful. I'm curious your thoughts on how becoming a mother maybe like brings different parts out of us. I mean, I know for me, like the rage piece was a huge one. I'm like, I have never felt anger in a way that I've like had to express, like literally have to express
Yeah.
until becoming a mom. Like it was like, what's going on? But I know there's so many things that come up. What are your thoughts on that? Like, why does that happen? What's going on there?
Yeah. I love that question. First off, you are one nervous system
Yeah.
designed to regulate this one human being. And already that's a lot. Now, if you go through pregnancy, you're no longer just here for one person. You are giving all kinds of your resources to that other being that you're growing. Then you've got to figure out a way to get them out. And that's its own, like, unbelievable miracle and challenge. And then you got to keep them alive. And you become an auxiliary nervous system for that person. That means you are running their dysregulation and regulation through your own being as though it's your own. So you're doing two people now. And that is expensive. That is so costly on your vitality, your energy, all of that. I mean, that already is like so big that the world needs to bow down to moms, especially in those first few years where it's full on. It gets easier in terms of the nervous system donation over time. Like my kid is at school now and I've got my complete nervous system to myself. Maybe there's 4% that's thinking about her, but like very little because I know she's okay and she's a big girl and all of that. But in those first, 5 years, it's you, wholly, you're all in. So you're compromised and you're feeling everything for two beings. That's a big deal. And that means your parts are aware of increased vulnerability. They already knew about yours before you had a child, but now they know about both of yours. And you are regressed kind of by virtue of not sleeping as much, not having as much energy in your body. So you don't really have the finessey kinds of ways of protecting yourself that you used to have. And so it's like a big reconfiguration of your parts and a recalibration, and you're not yourself. And again, that goes on for a long time. I'm not sure it ever ends. Actually, I know it doesn't ever end completely, but it does get easier and it feels more familiar over time. Then there's that other piece that when you are downloading your nervous system, because that's really what you're doing into your baby, you're co regulating so that
Yeah.
they learn what regulation feels like. They're going to use you as a template, right? Without meaning to, but they are.
Yeah.
And for you to be a template and do that downloading, you're having to kind of dial up and remember, not necessarily in a conscious way, but in some kind of a way, what it is to be vulnerable, what it is to be dependent, what it is to be held. And all of that from your history, all of that kind of felt experience of vulnerability, dependency is alive in you. So basically, you're accessing and recalling implicit information about your own attachment history. And if that was really peachy, great. You're going to be awash in a lot of peachy kind of vibes. But if it wasn't, and, or if it's just complicated, and also vulnerability and dependency come with a fair amount of, it's not always safe to feel vulnerable and dependent when you're crying and no one comes. And that happens to
Yeah.
every infant. So some amount of that is going to be alive in you while you're a new mom. So you're basically having just a lot of activation about vulnerability. It's just full throttle inside a new mom. And then what do you do?
Yeah. Yeah.
How much support do you get? How much cushioning is there around you too?
And we know that for the vast majority of us, not enough, right?
Yeah.
Like it's even if you have, like, I know for me, I had my first son when I was 23 and was like unprepared to have a kid, in a lot of ways, but I did have a lot of family support and was really fortunate in that way, right? Like I had a lot of support. I still have a
Good.
lot of support. I
Good.
had one of my kids was sick this morning and I needed to take the other one to school and he did not want to go to school because his brother was not going to school. And like I called my parents and said, "Hey, can you help me?" And they did. Like I'd have a lot of support.
That's how it's supposed to be.
Amazing. Yes, it's incredible. And not everyone has that. That is such a privilege that I have to not only have family that is really supportive as me and my kids, but they live nearby and my dad's retired, so he could come,
Yes.
like all of that, right? There's so many factors.
I love it.
But even with like the biggest amount of support in a familial sense, I'm a single mom, so like lacking with some of the support there, but I also co-parent. So like there's different give and take in all of our lives. Regardless of how much support you have around you, we are raising children in a patriarchal system that is not meant to support us. Like
That's right.
it's clear as day that's the truth of the matter.
That's
And
right.
so you say all of that and you use the word compromise to explain how we are in the beginning. Like we are supporting two people or
Yes.
more, like
Or
it's not
more.
always just one kid. And to acknowledge the fact that we are doing that in a system that already is not built to support us. And now we're compromised. Like we're not performing at our best. There's no way you're performing at your best when you are not getting enough sleep. There's no way you're performing at your best when you are quite literally regulating two nervous systems. There's so much, again, validation and just hearing that and understanding that. It's like, of course, you're not performing at the top of your game. But
Aw.
then, of course, there's all the guilt and shame that can come with that complicates everything and brings up so much more. It's like this, it can be such a cycle of perpetuating the bad feelings and feeling bad about ourselves and
Yes.
just kind of getting swept up in that.
Yes, that's right. I'm like so in it with you as you're describing that and thinking about you and being young and two kids or more,
Yeah, I've got two.
two.
They're a handful.
And they're a handful, and that feeling of being compromised and not being at your best. And I think the piece that does get missed so much by the world is how that feels for you.
Yeah.
How that feels for
Yeah.
you. Like, I know your kids, and we can all talk about, yeah, are you responding and being attuned to your kids, and are they getting. I'm kind of over that. I mean, I'm not, but I'm pretty sure you hit their needs for the most part.
Yeah.
And probably very few people looked at yours and, inquired into what is it like for you to feel stretched this thin? And what are you telling yourself about yourself right now?
Yeah.
And what are you telling yourself about your kids right now? And how does that need to be held a little softer or with greater compassion? It's just hard. It's hard to stretch yourself that thin and not turn on yourself.
Yeah. And yet it's like crucially important that we don't, right?
Yeah.
Like we have to have compassion. That was one of the C's, right? Like the
Yeah.
having compassion for ourselves when we need it, having curiosity for ourselves when we need it, when we need to understand better, like what's going on.
That's
All
right.
of those different pieces. It's like we have to connect deeper.
We
We
have to
can't
connect deeper.
we can't just say screw it. It's all bad. I'm a bad mom because that doesn't help anyone.
It doesn't help anyone. And you're more important than your kids. In I'm just gonna leave it at that. I say that it's very provocative, but I think it's important to get people's attention with that. You are more important than your kids.
Yeah.
And if you start tending to those feelings of not being good enough or feeling like you're failing in a way that's truly curious and has some compassion around it, I guarantee you your kids will also benefit immensely from that. Like that's one of the best things that you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's extremely powerful to understand, right? Like you can do it for yourself for your kids, but you really have to do it for yourself. It has to be
Yes.
an internal thing. There's no faking it.
There's no faking it. You got it. It's not a performative thing. It's right down at ground zero in you. Because you are that template and you can't give what you don't have.
Yeah. It's the truth of the matter. They all say you can't pour from an empty cup, and there's a lot of truth behind that, right? It's like if you're not showing up in a way that's modeling something for your kids, they're not going to learn it, right? They're learning from us in everything that we do, which I think can also be part of I don't want to say the problem, but like that can be hard, right?
Yeah, it can feel like more pressure.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, I think it's also, one of these cards is like one of my truths is my kid is a work in progress, and so am I. And I think that has got to be accepted as completely unavoidable. It's just the reality we're all dealing with. We are all working on this collectively. And so when you hit a bump in your road around like who you want to be versus who you are with
Yeah.
parenting, how do you want to come at that? Could you come at that with curiosity and interest? Could you try using like this mom parts method and maybe doing a little card spread for yourself and actually approaching it like you would for your child who you love? When you see your child have an explosion or a meltdown, my guess is you're not just smacking them upside the head and saying, do better. You're digging in there and trying to help understand what happened and letting them know you love them and let's try some things together. And, we don't really do that for ourselves in a real hands on, hearts on kind of way. Nobody taught us to, and that's
Yeah.
not what we make time for. So, this mom parts stuff is very much about giving yourself that kind of love, finding your own inner mom and helping connect her with your own inner baby that's like got some stuff that she still needs.
Yeah. Oh, it's like just such powerful visuals and such powerful just ways of thinking about ourselves. It's like, again, coming back to that complexity and the understanding that we are complex. That's the way it is. There's so much to us.
Yeah.
There's so much beauty to that and pain and all the things. And if we can attune to it, we can work with it. It's just learning to work with it. I want to ask you, and I don't know what direction you want to go with this, but for a mom who is struggling with maybe those feelings of not feeling good enough or the rage, the resentment, just these things that are coming up that she didn't expect and they don't feel true to who she is, but it's the reality of the situation, right? Like, I think we all can relate to that. Whatever part of it is coming up for you, it's something that happens to all of us, right?
Yes.
What would be a good first step in connecting with those parts and maybe starting to do some of the healing there?
If she already knows what that part's kind of presenting as, it's some kind of anger or something, then she's already identified it. So that's kind of step one. Like, can you just
Mm-hmm.
start to notice what is that energy showing up as? Is it panic? Is there anxiety? Is it anger? Is it like perfectionism? And once there's a little sense of that, one thing you can do is in my book, I think it's chapter 5, there's a description of every single part that can give you a little hit on, in a really loving way, what that part's actually trying to do for you. So you could do a little reading about it, and that might help open up some interest and compassion about
Yeah.
that part that feels so uncomfortable inside. But if you don't have the book or you want something that's even a little quicker, the question I would say to pose to your part is, what are you afraid would happen? Rage, panic, whatever it is, if you didn't show up right now.
Mm.
What are you trying to help me with? Why did you show up? What if you hadn't shown up? What do you think would happen, inner critic, if you hadn't shown up and called me terrible names from inside? And that question, if you pause and let the part answer, let your rage answer, will reveal its good intentions. And sometimes you need a little guidance, like from
Yeah.
a therapist, or, I've got this mom parts community that's all about guidance for that. Because if you're too blended with your part, you'll just kind of hear its diatribe and keep agreeing with it. But if you have this awareness that every single part is trying to help you and has a good intention, look for that. So your rage, I'm pretty sure your rage shows up because it's really worried you're about to lose the last of, your autonomy, your energy, your time, your dignity, your self respect, something. And it's absolutely committed to not letting you lose that. And it's going to do what it has to do to preserve something for you because it loves you and it values that. And it might be the only voice of that in your entire world right now because your kids don't care about you, losing your autonomy. They just need what they need. And, if you're single parenting or if your partner's like busy or working or kind of irritating, they're not worried about that. Only your rage is going to pipe up and say, hell no. And of course, rage can have such negative effects. It's not like I'm saying, moms, let's all get together and rage. But I'm saying if you can start to like crack the code and know that didn't show up because it wants to create terrible outcomes. It showed up because it thinks it's the only way to help preserve something for you, and you are the most important thing to it.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, you said that, and obviously I shared earlier that like the rage was a big piece and still is. I mean, my oldest is 7.5. Like I'm not like pretending that that has gone away. It's still very much a very present part of my motherhood experience is dealing with a rage that I had never felt before. But as you were saying that, I was like kind of asking myself, what does my rage, what is it trying to hold on to? And I think for me, I'm like, oh, I think there's like a sense of control, like
Yes.
of feeling like I need to control situations that I wouldn't say I'm like a particularly controlling person in life, but like it comes up in moments where it feels like I've lost all control to my kids, to, in past relationships, to the partner, like all the things. It's like
Yeah.
that's where it comes up. And I want to share that because you saying all of those things, that wasn't necessarily one of the things that you said, one of the words you said. I was able to answer that pretty quickly. And I've never really
Mm,
thought of it in that way. So I think that's kind of a cool, like, aha moment for me just to share that
I love
because
it.
it's pretty
Yes.
powerful.
Yeah. And then I love that you connected it with control. And I would say, control is another part that's in the deck.
Mm.
And they sounds like, in your system, you're being generous enough to let us in. Like maybe rage is a close cousin or an ally with control.
Yeah.
And so we could also ask control, like, well, what are you afraid would happen if you didn't show up?
There's a lot of things under that too. Like that's such an interesting like path. I can see how having those cards too could really like help you dig in if there's like kind of layers to it and dig in and get curious with each part and understand like the full picture that when we're just going through life and going through motherhood and absolutely consumed by it all because
Yeah.
how can we not be? Like we're raising children, we're trying to pay the bills, we're trying to navigate
Oh my
relationships,
God.
we're opening our phones and seeing horrendous news all the time. Like,
Yes.
of course, we're consumed by everything else. And of course, we're the thing that gets put on the back burner. Like, if we're surviving and getting by, cool, like, shove it to the back. But like being
Yeah.
able to sit there and intentionally dig in and see what's going on inside, to be able to show up with more compassion, to be able to show up with more understanding, and to be able to like not feel like bad moms when
Yes.
that's not the truth.
I know. And as you're saying that, Emily, I'm realizing like chances are, yeah, nobody else is going to do that for you. And
Yeah.
so it's really on us to do it for
Yeah.
ourselves. And it actually feels really good to do it. It's not like another chore. It feels
Totally.
good. And I think there's this like illusion that we have that our kids are going to at some point make this a more fulfilling experience. It's not to say that motherhood doesn't have fulfilling aspects to it. It sure does. But it isn't really a lifestyle that's fulfilling on the daily. It's a lot of freaking work, a lot of management, right? And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of putting yourself on the back burner. So I think we just have to get it out there in the clear that like none of this motherhood stuff is really for you. That what
Yeah.
you're giving is you're hosting other people. And so for you to get something, you're going to have to claim it for yourself. And even if you have a partner or even a loving partner, you still have to claim it for yourself. And I think the mom part stuff is that it's a way to start to claim this territory as your own and take it out of everybody else's hands. You're not a bad mom because your kid told you you are, or you saw an Instagram post that made you realize you are, or because your partner is throwing shade. No, you'll decide and you go be with your parts and start to investigate more with true curiosity. What are they trying to do for me? If I can believe what that lady said, that they all have good intentions, and they do, you wouldn't have developed them unless you needed them at some point.
Yeah.
And you needed them because they showed up to save you in some way, either literally or psychologically. Then let me start breaking that down and getting to know myself, getting on my own team, learning that I am trustworthy because you are. You are so trustworthy. You're complex, like you said, but you actually are pretty organized. Once you study the organization, there's a flow and a reason for how things go inside of you. And I think this book is really here to start helping you crack the code on your inner organization.
I love that. And I love the opportunity to like commit to yourself in that way of like, let's do it. We put so much time and effort into so many other things. I mean, I'm not a huge parenting book reader, but I know a lot of moms will read a lot of parenting books or, you know,
Yeah,
all these things. And it's like, choose something for you.
for
Like you,
you.
this is your life and it's really important. Like you, again, you're the only person that's going to show up for you in those ways because it really only matters to you. Like
Yeah,
that interconnectedness, it's important for you. And of course, yes, there are positive impacts to your kids and your family and all of that. But like you have to make the decision to prioritize yourself in that way and to set aside the time. And I think that's really cool that like picking up this book can be part of that, right? Like it's just an invitation to look at yourself and get to know yourself and lay it all out there.
that's right. It made me think about this sort of binary of, are you a selfish mom or are you a selfless mom?
Yeah.
And we think it's like one or the other. But there's actually a way to be very generous with yourself that is, like you were saying earlier, filling up your cup so you can actually pour from
Yeah.
it. And even if you don't care about pouring from your cup, you still deserve a full cup.
100%. Oh, so many incredible things in this conversation. As we kind of close out, there's something I love to ask guests at the end. And I feel like this question is quite relevant to the conversation we had today. But this podcast is called The Sparkle Project. I like to think of our sparkle as like that essence of who we are, that light. And it's something that in motherhood is often dimmed, covered up. Like there's just so many other things, right? But yes, it's important that we have that sparkle, right? It's part of us. So I'd love to ask you how you protect your sparkle.
Gosh, I love that question so much. And it so hits home for me because I think my mom, who struggled with addiction and all kinds of, mental illness, wasn't able to protect her sparkle. And I've been thinking about that so much with compassion for her.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, yeah, time to myself, really developing a relationship with myself as my own inner mom and letting that be kind of number one, like giving myself the kind of love that I didn't get as a kid and that nobody else can give me now. So making that really, really central to my everyday and having that change the tone of how I talk to myself. That's how I'm protecting my sparkle.
I love that answer. I love how full circle it is. I think it's great to hear other moms talk about like being number one in our
Yeah.
lives, right? Like I think that's a message that is not out there necessarily enough for it to be normalized. And there's a lot of putting ourselves on the back burner out of necessity a lot of times, but we can move ourselves to that position of importance and it matters. Yeah. So
We need
beautiful.
to. We need to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. Where can listeners find you? I know you have so many resources. Let us know where we can find you.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Jessica Tomich Sorci. I've got a website, jessicatomichsorci.com. My book, When Good Moms Feel Bad, is in all stores now, which is exciting. I have a new little interesting podcast that really is just talking about specific kinds of mom parts and dynamics. And that's called Mother Centered. And that's my story.
Amazing. We will have it all linked to. If you're anything like me, you're probably like, I gotta dig into it all right now. So it'll all be in the show notes for you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for being here. This conversation, I mean, I have incredible conversations on this podcast. I am very particular about what conversations I bring here. So they're pretty much all incredible. But I have to say, this was like a personal favorite, like just really incredible insights and takeaways for me. So thank you for being here and sharing your heart with us because, wow.
Well, you are a joy to talk to, and I really appreciate this like authentic energy that you're bringing to moms. I can feel your sincerity and your life force behind it.
Well, thank you so much. That I'm gonna take that, receive that.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you for tuning in. Keep on shining. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Sparkle Project. Loved what you heard? Share this episode with a friend, and don't forget to leave a rating and review to show your support for the show. We'll be back next week with another episode. See you then.